sister sit and store what I'm about to preach on. Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way. But don't let that get you down, girl.
And we are here with the lovely, my soul sister, Miss Trisha Curling. How are you doing, babe?
I'm good today. How are you, Nads?
I'm good. Welcome, everyone. This is day 10. That's insane. Day 10 of 30 days of HERstory. We've had 9 amazing women so far, and you're going to meet Trish today if you've not met her before. Trish, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Nads. Thank you. We have a long relationship going here.
Yeah.
Relationship. So yes, I'm happy to be here.
You know, it's funny because, no, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell people how we met.
Please
we
do.
met on Instagram.
The new age.
Right? And I remember we were going to do like a coffee meetup at a coffee restaurant who does not need our free advertisement.
That's right.
And my husband was like, so where did you meet this person? I was like, yeah, I met her on Instagram. He's like, okay. And you're going to go meet her in person?
Get with it.
And he thought I was insane. And it wasn't the first time. It was the first time, but not the only time, because you might have started a chain reaction after that.
It was a positive experience. So then
it was. Yes, it's so true. And after we met, a few months after, we were planning something together, and I had to put everything on hold because I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And a few months after, I just kept like this nagging in me to message you, you know, and I was like, oh, but, you know, I've only told like, I don't know, a handful of people at this point. And, you know, and then the people who are close to me that I haven't told yet, like, would they be upset that I'm telling somebody I just met on Instagram? And I finally followed that and I messaged you. And that was really like the beginning of birthing of this amazing relationship. So thank you for being there all throughout that time.
And thank you for trusting me through that process. And yeah, I mean, taking a chance. I was just talking to a friend yesterday and just saying, you know, listening to your instinct is always the best way to go. And so, you know, the circumstances on paper didn't necessarily look like it was the right thing to do, but following instinct takes you to the right place.
Yes. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I think learning to trust our instincts, especially as women, is like a lifelong lesson.
Yes,
you know?
definitely.
Yeah.
Still.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There are times that we are so in tune with ourselves that it's like all one thought and action, you know, smooth. And then there are times when we're really fighting it for all sorts of reasons. For me personally, sometimes it's, am I being judgmental? Is it too quick for me to have made that decision already, you know, about a relationship or a circumstance or anything like that? But yeah, learning to trust instincts.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is that journey been like for you? Like coming to this place where you accept trusting your instincts is the way to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that from very early on, I knew that I was very highly intuitive and that whenever I did trust my gut, it never failed me. Again, not to say that I didn't choose otherwise. You know, sometimes I would have this nagging feeling, and still sometimes, you know, to say, oh man, I should do this, but maybe this is the right thing to do. And again, for various reasons, you know, other opinions or how will this look? Again, this should be the right thing that looks right. I should do this. But I think I've really, especially in the last 2 years, with a lot of changes personally, a lot of changes in business, that I've really now kind of deeply come to say, that's it. That's, you have to get quiet. And again, this is part of actually funny that it's a conversation I was having with someone yesterday, just to continue to remember to just get quiet and listen to yourself. And sometimes other opinions are not because people want to harm you. They're well-meaning, but it's really only you who knows the fullness of any situation, and also the outcomes and how we're going to have to deal with the outcomes and the fallout. So we really have to tune into what's going to be right for us. That I always say to you, no is my favorite word. Because part of that is honoring myself, my space, my mental health, all of those things that just need to be protected.
Yeah. I mean, like toddlers, they got it down pat, right?
Exactly.
They're like, oh, bring it. No.
I'm not doing that. Exactly.
They already know they know what's going on. They're like, no, you're interrupting my Barney time.
That's
I will not pick that up. Yes, but even in that process of learning, like our yay and our nay, when to give a yes, how to give a yes, when to give a no, understanding that the no is a gift. I always tell people, I prefer you to say no now. Yes, exactly. Than to say yes, and then I'm counting on you, and then I'm like, hi.
Exactly. Yes. And that's taking some time and space. Sometimes before you give an answer to is I've learned it's really a really good thing, because again, immediately you might want to say yes because you think, oh, that sounds like a great idea, and then an hour later you're like, shoot, I also have to deal with this and this, and I have to do this. Right. Not that you don't want to be a part of something. It's just honoring your time and what you can handle and what you can bring to the table. You want to bring your best situation, so you don't want to follow through and not live through exactly to your fullest potential. Yeah. And you want to be surrounded by people that can accept and love you through the no. Exactly. Exactly. That's huge. Yeah, to me, if the love in our relationship is dependent on me always saying yes, something is off. Right. Exactly. Yes. So, I mean, we've talked so much here already, just chit-chatting, but I know lots about you. I want everybody else to know about you. So tell the ladies, and we've had some guys watching and supporting us. Thanks, gentlemen, on our Facebook page. But tell the ladies mostly all about yourself. Yes. Well, when I knew that this question was coming, I thought, I can do my list of, I do this and I do this, but I thought the first thing that, again, instinctually comes to mind is that I'm a creative. That's who I am. That's where I thrive. So no matter what I'm doing, no matter what that looks like, from very early on, I've been a visual artist. From 5 years old, I always had to tell this story, like copying and drawing Mr. Men books on my mom's bed while watching, something on TV or whatever, cartoon on TV. Which grew eventually, very short story, into a Bachelor of Fine Arts, because that was my first passion. So anything that I'm doing, there has to be some level of creativity. So that's seeped into now that list of what I do now, which is a yoga teacher, personal trainer. So whether it be my classes, working with my clients, doing things for my own practice, things like that. The creativity is really, really important, and that lights me up. Yeah. And I want everyone to know that Trish is my yoga teacher and my personal trainer. I own this relationship here. If you want permission to work with Trish, you have to go through me for, I'm kidding. Look at the links below. Like, ignore Nadia and just come to me. No, it honestly has been really phenomenal working with you. The level of care that you put into making sure that, my body and the new limitations are respected, but then also the emotional support, right? I mean,
you've been on the receiving end of many of my text and voice messages, you know, cursing the sky, right? Like, so.
I think that's what it is, you know. I mean, for me, even getting into, before I got into the wellness space again, you know, I was doing this in my 20s. I was training at a big box gym. Again, they don't need our advertisement.
Yeah.
I do. Links below.
There we go. One more link.
Before I did that, I went into teaching afterwards. So in my early 20s, you know, was personal training, doing that at the gym, teaching group fitness classes, went into teaching for elementary school board or for TDSB, and did that for 9 years. But I came back to the wellness space because of the biggest tragedy of my life, which is the loss of my brother. Anybody who may have followed me or seen me talk about my story before, or, you know, checked out my website would know this, because I have to talk about it, because that's what propelled me into this space again. So it was my own experience dealing with loss, dealing with grief, dealing with personal injuries, you know, all the things that I was dealing with that were difficult in my own personal experience. But then knowing that because I was able to move through that and continue to move through that, because it doesn't end, like you said, it's always a lifelong journey. It was about helping other people, other women, other people who I knew I wasn't alone in feeling like this.
Yeah.
You know, as the human experience is feeling, you know, going through change, loss, you know, injury, disease, devastation, whatever it may be. But you can move through that and come out a lot stronger, a lot happier, and have tools to work with. So working with my clients, many who have been women, I've worked with a few men, yes, but working with my clients, that's really important to me, because I know it's more than just, you know, calories and nutrition and, you know, resistance training and yoga. There's a lot of emotional support that needs to be lended and understood. Yeah. So there has to be a lot of space for that in working with people.
Yeah. And understanding that that's it, right? You're working with people going through very people-like life situations, right. You know, and also you're a people.
Right. I'm a people.
Right. And I think we forget that when we look to our leaders in whichever sphere, you know, we're constantly looking to someone that we can draw from. And sometimes we forget that, you know, they need pouring into as well.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So for our visionary women in our community, we know that you're out there constantly pouring out. And as in our conversation with Elle yesterday, we kind of figured out this cool analogy that, you know, you don't have to pour out of the jug, be half empty, and then go fill up somewhere else. Just stay connected and let it flow through, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you have built, that you talked about being a creative. Yes. And, you know, these things that have poured out of you. By the way, I've seen your art and I just like, I'm like, I can pretend to doodle something similar. I can't, you know, nothing that in my head comes out on the canvas. Nothing.
But I'm a firm believer there too. I can mold anyone to draw anything that they want. I believe.
Really? Let me take you up on that challenge. I'm just like, I start off in my mind. In my mind, I'm Van Gogh. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, what's the French Haitian guy's name from Brooklyn? Was it Bassier? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's my favorite artist.
That guy. There we go.
Jean-Michel.
Yeah. Thank you. I know something.
There you go.
But yeah, I end up with that, even though I was starting with Van Gogh in mind, you know. So
Basquiat is brilliant. So don't downplay Basquiat.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's just not what I thought it was gonna be. Very different styles of art, right? So it's like
I accept that.
Yeah, I probably should have researched it properly and mentioned the guy's name right. It's sorry, man.
This is what live and natural conversation. That's it.
That's true. That's true. So in all of this creating, you know, does it just all just kind of happen haphazardly? Is there a point in time where you actually say, well, I'm envisioning this is what I want, and then go after it? Do you think that, vision and creating vision and clear vision, all that is important? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things happen simultaneously. I think that there is room and time to, and very important just to set goals and say, this is what I see, what I want to create. But then, of course, a lot of things happen on the journey that may interrupt that, change that, warp that, move that, and we mold and move in sometimes a different direction. So vision, yes, I think is very, very important, because that's how we create our realities too, right? Like we affirm, we visualize, we experience on a physical and emotional level what that looks like or what that can feel like. But as I said, things can change too. So I think it's important to, one of the things, again, in my art career, growing up and learning in school and so on, was understanding that sometimes the mistakes are the most beautiful things that can happen. So I think that's really important too. So the vision, yes, but also be aware of what's happening in the process, because sometimes what you think was the most devastating thing, which is really the basis of my story. Losing my brother is horrible, but it changed the course of my life into something that I really am more settled and happy with.
Yeah, the mistakes are beautiful. I really just want that to sink in. Because if there are any like overachievers out there, super type A people like me, you really have I don't know, a very difficult relationship with mistakes, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah.
We all do. Like who told me, was it, I wish, maybe it was you, we had a conversation, or I can't remember who I was talking to, and said, oh no, actually I think it was Damali. Yeah, it was Damali Fraser, and Damali is a liftoff strength, and she said, we have to have a grieving process for everything, and that's okay to do that. So yeah, you might make the mistake and have that grieving process, but then that's okay. Then you move on to the next. So it's okay to feel like a mistake, because then that window opens and you're like, oh, that's what happened.
Exactly. And sometimes the beauty of the mistake can only be seen steps further down the road.
That's right.
You're looking back and you're like, oh, so that might have been a mistake for me, but cosmically that was a design.
Yes.
Because this thing couldn't have happened if the mistake hadn't happened,
Absolutely. And it's not all sunshine and butterflies, it's like we can sit here, after the fact and say, oh, it was all for this, it was great. But during, like,
I know, right?
I'm like, this is crap. I don't like this. This is hard. And why is it happening? And sometimes you want to resist it and fight. But that's very human to feel that. And again, having compassion and understanding and knowing that that's okay. It's okay to be upset, angry, hurt, all those things right now. But, being able to be a reflective person and understand, like you said, vision and purpose, knowing that it's okay. I'm going through this right now and it feels really hard, but it will come, and this feeling will change. And it's just a feeling.
Yes.
Right? It's not the end of the story.
Exactly. We normally center the conversation at the end on our nonprofit partner, the Beautiful Foundation. But, based on what you're sharing here, I really just wanted to pause and acknowledge the work that they're doing, and the women who are in these places where you're looking around and you might feel like if everything around you is the reflection of the mistake.
Right.
But it's all part and parcel of the process. And while we're in it, like you're saying, Trish, we can't see out of it all of the time.
Right.
And so sometimes we need that. Sometimes we definitely need that community of other women who could come in from the outside and say, hey girl, it's beautiful out here.
Yes.
You'll get through this. That's right. That's right. And I see you beautiful as you are, despite the mistake, because of the mistake, in the presence of or the absence of the mistake. I see
Right.
that beauty inside you, you know? And so whether the struggle is overcoming trauma, you know, from many different kinds of abuse, whether it's overcoming substance abuse, whether it's overcoming, again, that self-talk that denies you your right to the good things to which you are entitled, the respect, the love, the joy to which you are entitled.
Yes.
You know, no matter what that struggle is, you know, we have our sister Judith there saying, yeah, community is so important. And Judith, I'm keeping her up there, is the executive director of the Beautiful Foundation. So thank you, Judith, for what you do with your team and for inviting us to be a part of that process with you. I just had in the spirit of the moment, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So, all right. So now, you know, sorry, I've like thrown our conversation off, but it's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. So now we've talked about vision, right? And fluidity in that vision, right? Understanding that the vision should change. It should grow with us as we grow, that we're not locked into the vision we had at 12 years old,
Right.
you know, because we're not the person we were at 12 years old anymore, you know. And in that process of defining our vision, sometimes we start to talk about things, the things that we're seeing, the things that we're looking for. And some people really welcome what we're talking about, and some people don't particularly welcome the vision that we, you know, are so excited to share.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced a time in your life where you felt as though your voice had been diminished or silenced?
Yeah, I mean, on many different levels. I'm trying to think about what to speak to first, or all, or some. I would probably have to say, if even just talking about my transition, let's even on that level of transition from being an elementary school teacher to moving into back into the wellness space, you know, I got a lot of support and a lot well-needed support, which I needed at the time because it was a big move. But I also, in the same turn, got a lot of, "Are you crazy? Like, what? Like, what about your pension?
Right.
What about, you know,
the safety of
exactly the safety?" And I mean, and again, it's not about, it's just about choices. It's, you know, it's, for me, it was, if that's what your vision is and that's what you want to do, then I support, like, that's great.
Yeah.
But I just, again, instinctually and intuitively felt something else. Like it just wasn't 100% fulfilling. I needed to move and do something else. And like a calling, I guess, if you will. And also the deep understanding of, this is it. If I don't try, I don't get another chance.
Yeah.
I don't get to look back and say, you know, I wanted to look back and say, at least I tried.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but there also had to be a firm understanding of, I'm going to land on my 2 feet no matter what. And that's what I have always believed about myself, and continue to believe about myself, that, you know, no matter how rough or how challenging some things are in life, I'm always going to land on my feet.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, sometimes the trying is the success. Exactly.
Yeah. The experiences that I've had, like, since I decided to do this, are things I never would have had if I had stayed in the profession.
True.
And it's not a knock on the profession. It's just, I know that I wanted to do something different. So, have I lost the question now? I'm getting passionate about talking about this.
Have you felt as though your voice was diminished or silenced?
Yeah. So, you know, so I guess in that sense, then it was, oh yeah, remember to protect who you share with.
Right.
You know? So maybe not necessarily a silencing, because, you know, I was excited and I wanted to share with, you know, and also not that we weren't going to find out anyways. Like, I won't be cool. Don't you? Yeah, exactly. So, but just remembering, I guess, to protect that sometimes, and also
Yeah.
even through the journey, just protecting some of my my energy and some of my voice and things that I envision. Because yes, people sometimes think like that's nuts, like that's you think
Yeah.
that's gonna happen, like you're really gonna be able to do that. How are you gonna do that?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
With that
and
same smile too, right? They're like, yeah, how you gonna? Are
exactly.
you sure?
I'm like, how's it going?
Right.
So I had to protect my energy and stay away from that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, so in that sense, maybe a little silence because you want to share, you want to be excited about what you're doing.
Yes.
In another aspect or in other areas of my life, I'd have to say even in some relationships, in intimate relationships, feeling silenced or like I couldn't say certain things but I always like to think that I'm like the foliage creeping through the cracks in the concrete. You know what I mean? So as much as,
They try
sometimes
to, yeah.
somebody wants to, do this,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, hello, I'm still here. I'll come through eventually because I'll always find myself. So, many different reasons, with employers, I've felt silenced in those spaces too sometimes, for various reasons. So, but again, because I know that I have to move in a direction that's going to help me to speak and have my voice, even if it appears that, or even if I do feel, or if I allow it, because I have that hand too, right? Even if I allow it for a certain period of time, I know that I'm coming out on the other side eventually.
Yeah.
So I trust myself.
Exactly. That's the conversation that we're having as visionary women, that we also have a level of responsibility in that whole area of whether or not our voices are silenced.
Right.
And so, yes, there are real and true systems and structures that are hell bent on silencing our voices.
Right.
And yes, there are people who will absolutely not bend to their ear to what we're saying. We know that those things definitely exist. And like you said, we have to be, the vine running up through the foundation might look so much smaller in comparison to, to the concrete. It might seem so much weaker in comparison to the concrete, but the persistence and the sheer determination of I am growing,
no matter what.
Exactly. And so there's that when we grow, we come to this place of understanding, wait, we actually allow others at times to silence our voices. And in our youth or even in maturity, because it may have nothing to do with our age. But as we grow through those phases, like I say, I wouldn't have known that I needed to be respected in a relationship had I not been disrespected in a relationship.
Exactly.
I didn't even know it was a requirement, until I experienced it. So then next relationship, well, now this is a requirement.
Absolutely.
Maturing past that. Yeah.
And learning about yourself, right? Because sometimes you think, that would never happen to me.
Right.
And then, you get into a situation and you realize, oh, I didn't really respond in a way that I thought that I would have. So how can I change that for myself?
Yeah. It reminds me of that story in the Bible. I don't know if you grew up on Bible stories, but Joseph, he had this vision and he couldn't really, explain all the pieces, but basically all of the elders of his family were going to bow to him one day.
Yes.
And he tells his brothers, his blood brothers, this vision, and that gets him thrown into a pit and sold into slavery.
Sure, buddy.
You're right. It's like, oh, let's see us bow down to you in that pit there. You know what I mean? And so we do have to be careful with whom we share the vision. And again, going back to the mistakes coming to full force. Now, he could not have gone through the path he went through to become, a leader in Egypt had his brothers not
Right.
thrown him into the pit had he not made the mistake of opening up his mouth and giving counsel to the wrong people. So it's this full circle, but the key is learning through it.
Yeah.
The key is, this happened, maybe I could have done it better, maybe I should have done it better. Okay, I can harp on that, or we're going forward.
Exactly. And like you said, what do I take away from that? What did I learn about myself? The resilience, all of those things that come out of being put through the ringer.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, and sometimes by our own decisions, right? So right. Now, you are this amazing artist, and you express your art in many different ways. And so I wonder if we have the question phrase in terms of writing, but I want to ask it to you a little differently.
Sure.
This idea of depicting the version of your story, taking control of the narrative that is received. How does that make you feel that you can have that control over the version of your life story?
Actually, I would love to even speak through writing as well, because writing is something that's always been a part of my life too. I mean, pen to paper, I think is so powerful. So when I was making that movement from elementary school teacher back into the wellness space, that was a big part of that, setting up that foundation of belief for myself and steeping it into my spirit, because I did a lot of, and still, again, that's in the tool bag of wellness for me, and routine, but writing in gratitude, writing affirmations. So again, setting up that vision, that, like you said, we do have a level of control. There are a lot of things that, of course, we don't have control, and things get put in our path, to maybe change the course a little bit, or to show us something else that maybe we didn't think was possible. But I think that writing your own story is really, really important. I think that you have to see it in front of you too. And and then conceptually, a vision board is something that's super important. I have that right in front of me,
Yeah,
so that
mine is right here too.
when I wake up, but when in my bedroom, so that when I wake up in the morning, I look at it and remind myself. So even when I'm having a day, or times when I'm feeling like, man, I feel like trash today, I'm not feeling my most confident, I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling, any negativity that's surrounding me, but then I can still look up at that. So, and say, still one day.
Yeah.
So writing your own story is very important, and setting up your environment to support that. Not only in the times where you feel like, yes, I'm great, I'm gonna achieve this and I'm gonna achieve that, but most importantly in those times when you feel like you're in the gutter, because that's what you have to look to remind yourself that the things are still possible.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? It is in those pit moments, right? It is in the gutter moment when all the tools, the whole point to me of learning and all these tools when things are great isn't to make sure things remain always great, because that's really not, we don't know what's going to happen at any given point in time. But it's so you are equipped. You can draw from that in your arsenal, in your toolkit, when it is, at its worst. I remember after, like the diagnosis process takes a long time. People may not always realize that. Especially in my case, because they couldn't actually find any of the tumors. They just kind of knew something was in there. And so that took weeks of diagnostic testing before, we could come to a full diagnosis. And a full diagnosis, a lot of people don't know this, for breast cancer, you don't get your final diagnosis until after you've had surgery most of the time. All right. And so, in all of that process, with the panic and the uncertainty of what is to come and all of these things. Because at that point they were saying, oh, it's anywhere from your chest and above. I was like, okay, that's a lot of places. We don't know where that is exactly, right? And in all of that, I remembered making one decision, that cancer was going to take my body, it was going to take my time, it was going to take money, it was going to take all of these resources, but it wasn't going to take my personality.
Right.
And it was not going to take my smile. I had control there.
Right. Right.
And so it was now, had I not gone through some other crappy stuff in my life before,
Right.
That's
right.
And sharpen those tools in those moments, I wouldn't have had that to pull out of the bag.
That's right.
So
right. That's
so
right.
true. Yeah. Thank you for that. And yeah, you're right. Even if we're not talking about writing a book, writing the version of our story does not necessarily mean trying to become a New York bestseller tomorrow, Yeah. But definitely. Yeah. The examples of journaling and writing down our list of gratitude and creating our vision boards and whatnot, and taking, again, that personal responsibility, in the story.
Right. And just have them there. Like, it doesn't, like we were saying, it doesn't always feel like we're aligned with that, that there are times when I don't touch a journal or write or do anything for weeks, even months, but again, it's a grace that you have to have for yourself to say, I'm a human. I'm allowed to feel like this. I'm allowed to have these feelings. I'm allowed to be in this horrible space. But, I always know that, hey, the journal is right there when I need it. And even if you're writing through tears, even if you're writing through a place of not even feeling like you believe it, because that's where it really started for me. I read a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And the first time I read it, I was like, yeah, this resonates with me. These are things and that ideas and concepts that I'm familiar with. But I was like, okay. And then I read it again and said, okay, let's read it again. Let's actually put some of the things into place, even though I was still writing through, a place of not feeling aligned. But then it gradually started to change. And so because I know that, like you said, the past can also dictate that for us, because I knew that, I've done this before and that energy is available to me. I can revisit it again with this tool bag, and I can go back into something like that. I know it can help me.
Yeah. And one of the powerful things I've found about journaling is like picking up one from like years ago and reading through it and being able to slightly remember what was going on, but no longer experiencing the emotion.
Right.
Right.
And
it really is like an indicator. Okay, so whatever I'm going through today,
exactly,
a year from now, I'll remember the circumstance.
Exactly.
And I'll be able to tell you, oh, it was sad.
Yes.
Or it was awful, or it was hard, or any of these things. But I'll be able to say it without necessarily regurgitating all of those old emotions every single time.
Right.
And it was like someone was talking about, like, when you have a physical scar, when you look at the scar, you don't feel the pain.
Right.
And you can tell somebody, oh, I fell off my bike and, this happened, or, whatever. And you can give a whole gruesome story, and you can even laugh about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, you could even laugh about it. Like, oh, can you believe I did that?
Exactly. And
you're not actually feeling the physical pain anymore. And that happens with us on an emotional level as well. I'm coming to a point now where I realize I can talk about experiences.
Right.
And I'm not heaving anymore,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely not.
And that's a journey. And so even in terms of writing down our version of the story, understanding that somebody else who experienced that story with us, their journal might look very different.
Yes. Exactly. My apologies in advance.
Right. You never know, right? I mean, the story writer determines who's the villain and who's the victim and who's the victor, right? So you never know. But yes, but as we write it down, even if we realize that let's say we're writing down the version of our story and we do come to an understanding that, oh, wait a minute, I was wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, that's also a big part of the healing too, absolutely, to be able to accept that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So now this whole process, we believe for us as visionary women is really important. You know, defining that vision, and we talk about it in terms of vision for our personal lives, because we already have big visions for our organizations and our businesses and all these things. And sometimes we just kind of forget, you know, like we said, you know, I'm a people, you're a people.
That's right.
You know.
I have feelings.
Right. Still got life to live. And so there's that. And then we know that our voice is important. We know that we're born with voice. Mm-hmm. Even if we're born without the physical ability to speak, we're still born with voice. You know, we have opinions and desires and things that we want to share and communicate with the world. And throughout all of this, we're empowered to write the version of our story. And we believe that this allows us to create a space of victory in our lives, that not a point at which we arrive that's victorious, but the ability to live out victorious lives. Now, when you hear the word victory, what kind of imagery comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think when you say all of that, I think victory is experience. Because, you know, as I said, for me, making certain choices, I've been able to have certain experiences that I never dreamt I would have been able to have, or I know I wouldn't have had I not made those decisions. So victory to me is being satisfied with knowing that I can step into different experiences and that I have the freedom to do so. I'm privileged to do so. And that I direct that, you know? So experience means fullness, right? Because, oh yes, now I have done that. And I can walk away knowing I'm satisfied. I'm glad I got to do that. I'm glad I got to experience that. I'm glad I got to either, you know, travel or see this place. I'm glad I got this special time with, you know, whatever it is, my daughter, my parents, you know, whatever the case may be. Experience. That's life, right? Like my brother passed at, you know, just shy of his 42nd birthday. And I know that for him too, he had left a corporate job and decided to start a business. And I'm satisfied that he had that experience before he passed. What if he had not decided to do that?
Yeah.
So that's what drives me all the time. That's what reminds me all the time to say, you know, I get to experience. I have today. I have this moment I have right now. So I could be gone half an hour from now. It sounds.
God forbid. I need you, so don't do that.
Friday. I mean, it sounds horrible to say, but that's the reality of the experience I had of losing him. That I know that it's in an instant. So I need to try to experience what I want to bring into my life. So victory is experience.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Trish. I mean, the idea that we have the ability to choose, you know, we get to determine, even if we can't determine the circumstance, we can determine how we choose to experience it.
Yes.
You know, we can choose our attitude in the circumstance. We can choose our perspective as it is happening. You know, that's where Viktor E. Frankl, one of my favorite philosophers, you know, the idea that everything can be stripped away from a person. Mind you, he was writing this from a concentration camp in Germany. That's where he decided that this was true. Everything could be stripped from a person except their right to choose their attitude.
That's right.
You know, and I was reading this as like a Caribbean girl, keeping it real with all my attitude right up front, you know. My best friend and I joke because somebody was talking about my attitude one day, and I was like, it's not attitude, it's personality. You know, like you just don't have any, right? And that's been our running joke for like over 10 years now. It's like, it's all personality.
Exactly, of course.
And I read those words all those years ago, and it challenged me. And it wasn't like a switch, right? It wasn't like, oh, well, suddenly I'm going to have a good attitude towards everything. No, I struggled for many years, still struggle.
Of course.
But again, that is what was in the toolkit, you know? So sisters, this is where we get to invest in the toolkit. This is where we get to invest in the arsenal. This is where we get to make sure that we show up for one another. Because guess what? Trish might not have a hammer in her toolkit, and I might not have a saw.
That's right.
Right? But together, we got a real fancy, you know, fully decked out, you know, toolkit, right? Yeah.
Right. That's right.
So that's where we need one another. And that's why we've created this HERstory community for visionary women like ourselves to be able to come together and just have that place of, okay, people here get me. You know, people here get that I'm energetic and I'm passionate and I want to change the world, and I want to do that through my nonprofit or through my business. I want to show up for my family. I want to do all of these things.
Nice.
How? You know? And some of it is by doing nothing. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes that's the best way, right? And so coming together with sisters who understand, who can speak into your life and help to undergird you and, you know, lift you up. That's what this community is here for. So if you want to go deeper with us, first of all, I'm going to make sure that all of Miss Trish links and them are available. Right? I'll make sure wherever it is that you click and you get all of the links. Yes. And also you'll have the opportunity to join us in our upcoming event, Hey Sister, Let's Color. And our masterminds beginning in April, 5 masterminds every month, delivered to you by 5 amazing facilitators from across the world. That's what we're here to do for you. That's how we're showing up for you all year long. Trish, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Nads. Thank you so much.
And to everyone who's joined us today, all the ladies and the gents, thank y'all. We will be back here tomorrow at noon with another sister chit-chatting. Yes, please. Trish, I'm so happy to have you in my life and to be able to share this space. Yay.
Thank you.
You know, she's my girl, Trish. Oh my gosh. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And we will leave you with this super awesome video, if we do say so ourselves, with these beautiful faces, if we do say so ourselves. And the musical stylings of Miss Sophia Soje Jackson. You will love it. I promise you. And you want to go check out the rest of the music too. Trust me, you want to do that for yourself. Enjoy, ladies. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, sister, sitting store. What am I about to preach on? Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way. But don't let that get you down, girl.